All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, with the 75th NBA season upon us, who is going to prevail from the Western Conference and advance to the finals? Now, the Vegas odds makers and plenty of people have their money on the Los Angeles Lakers, and rightfully so. This Lakers team, they're coming into the season and they're looking to live up to the hype. Why? Because after last year's first round exit from the playoffs, there was a lot of roster overhaul for this team. Now, along with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you now have a situation where Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, and Trevor Ariza are all wearing purple and gold. And, when you think about that type of star power that the Lakers are bringing to the table, it's basically put up or shut up. There's no excuses for LeBron not to get it done. There's no excuses for Anthony Davis not to get it done. You have guys like Carmelo who, are riding the coattails to try to get their first championship. You have a situation with Russell Westbrook. And that's the dynamic thing about this. Can he play within the realm of this offense enough to win a championship? You look at Rajon Rondo; he helped the Lakers win a championship a couple of years ago, and his veteran presence as a ball handler will definitely be welcomed. Big thing for the Lakers for me. If you watch them play last year, they lacked a rim protector. That changes right now because you have both Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, two of the better rebounders and shot blockers of this era. And now you know what? You really consistently have a big frame in the middle to kind of like alter shots. And it's also important because it takes some pressure off of Anthony Davis at the defensive end of the court. And that's going to only go out there and give him the opportunity to be more of a scorer. Trevor Ariza has always been a solid perimeter defender throughout his career. And, I know that LeBron and Carmelo came into the NBA draft, or the NBA rather, in the same year in the draft back in 2003, and they've teased over the years about potentially playing with each other, and now we're finally going to get that moment. So it's all going to be important to see the chemistry come together for this team. Also, they are an older team, so I think it's going to be important for Lakers head coach Frank Vogel to really monitor the minutes throughout the season. But nonetheless, I think the Lakers are going to go out there and try to set the pace for everybody else in the West. I'm also looking at the Denver Nuggets because this team, they're hopeful for another run at the Western Conference title. They got to the second round of the playoffs last year before they got swept by the Phoenix Suns, and they did that without the services of Jamal Murray. But one thing that we saw was Nikola Jokic really stepped up last season, which is why he was named the NBA's MVP. I still think Jokic is one of the best big men and best players overall at the offensive end of the court in the NBA. And now the Nuggets are hopeful to have a healthy Jamal Murray back this season after he suffered that ACL injury last year. Aaron Gordon got their contract extension over the summer. We saw the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. last year, and the Nuggets can score for head coach Mike Malone. But it's just going to be interesting to see if they're going to get enough defense. That's the biggest thing for the Nuggets. You look at the Phoenix Suns, and for me, one of the biggest things with the Suns, they're going to have to try to find a way to avoid the hangover from last year's NBA playoffs for several reasons. Number one, they were up 2-0 on Milwaukee in the NBA Finals and proceeded to lose the next four. Then, on top of that, last year was a 72 game season. We saw the playoffs and the finals not end until July, and it's mid October, and we're talking about the start of a new season. So, will the Suns have fresh legs at the beginning of the year? We'll have to wait and see. You have a veteran point guard in Chris Paul who has had his run-ins with the injury bug throughout his career, to say the least. Devin Booker is a star in the making. DeAndre Ayton is a very interesting wild card in this scenario because we saw talks break down rather in regards to Ayton getting a new contract extension with the Suns. So it's going to be important to see how Monty Williams, the Suns head coach, will be able to navigate all of this. I also look at the Utah Jazz, and for me, I see the Jazz as a team. They're built to win in the regular season, but not in the postseason because I call them Boston Celtics West. And the reason for that is the Jazz are a very perimeter oriented team. They rely on team ball, fundamental ball, and they live by the three and they die by the three. And I know that there are other teams that have that philosophy. But typically, when you're playing from the outside in this era of basketball, and I know people are still trying to replicate what the Golden State Warriors did a couple of years ago, it's really not going to work. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is a solid ball player, darn good. He's an all-star caliber player. He's made the all-star team several times, and you have shooters around him like Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, Bojan Bogdanovic, and now they brought in Rudy Gay. So I think they are once again going to be equipped for the regular season, but not the playoffs. And I know that people have disagreed with me on this fact that, I've always said that the Jazz a couple of years ago overpaid for Rudy Gobert. They gave him too much money just to be a shot blocker. And you need that guy, especially if you're paying him that type of money to, get you some buckets in those clutch situations in the fourth quarter. So you're basically playing 4 on 5 if you're Utah, and that really hinders them going forward. So I think the Jazz still will be a playoff team, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to say, you know what, we're making a push to be an NBA champion. You also look at the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Chauncey Billups era has begun in Portland. We know what Chauncey was able to do throughout his stellar NBA career, which included helping the Detroit Pistons win the NBA championship in 2004, in which he was the finals MVP. Now he has to try to get his message across as a coach. And, we saw the Blazers get bounced from the first round of the playoffs in 4 out of the last 5 years. And it's become very frustrating to all star guard Damian Lillard. But, again, it's a situation for Portland. They're built from the outside in, not the inside out. And that's a big reason why they struggle. Lillard is their go to scorer. You also have CJ McCollum and Norman Powell. But the bottom line is they don't get enough consistently in the paint. And when Lillard and McCollum are taking all the shots and really not making the guys around them better, even though the talent is there, that makes it tough. And it's going to be interesting to see if Billups can change that dynamic for this club this season. You look at the Los Angeles Clippers, and what can we expect from the Clippers this year? They made the Western Conference Finals last season for the first time in franchise history. They did it without the services of Kawhi Leonard, who was out with the knee injury. And I said it when it happened, that knee injury was more severe than the Clippers let on in regards to it. But nonetheless, the Clippers did play better and more cohesive as they got to the conference finals. But a lot of people left this team after last year. No more Rajon Rondo, he's with the Lakers. No more Lou Williams, he's with the Hawks. And no more Patrick Beverly, he's with the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Clippers are backing on a healthy Kawhi. Paul George really stepped up in the playoffs last year. Can he build off of that? Reggie Jackson stepped up as well, which led to the Clippers paying him. Serge Ibaka, can he get healthy? We saw Terrence Mann step his game up. But the thing for Ty Lue, the Clippers head coach, they have to find a way to build off of that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Clips can do this season. The Golden State Warriors, they're looking to stay healthy. And we saw this veteran club look like they were going to get back on track last year, but then Klay Thompson got hurt in training camp, so that changed things. But they were able to make the play-in tournament last year before they were eliminated. But nonetheless, the return of Klay Thompson will be big for this team, as will be the return of James Wiseman, because last year as a rookie, he showed flashes when he was able to be on the court. So that's going to be important for this Golden State Warriors team to keep both of them healthy. Steph Curry is still one of the better scorers in this league. You still have Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. I think this is a perfect fit for Andrew Wiggins because he can get an easy 20, on this Golden State team and really impact the game. You look at the addition of Otto Porter as well as bringing back Andre Iguodala. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Steve Kerr team will fit into things out west. Then you look at the Dallas Mavericks, and I should say the new look Dallas Mavericks. No more Rick Carlisle as the head coach after so many years as he clashed with star Luka Doncic, and in step Jason Kidd, the former Mavericks player. And it's going to be up to Kidd to try to get the best out of Luka Doncic. And it's going to be interesting because we've seen Kidd coach the Nets and it was up and down. We saw Kidd coach the Milwaukee Bucks and it was up and down. Now he's got to try to get the best out of Doncic. And I think for the thing for me with Doncic, Doncic is a tremendous scorer, but I've always said he takes too many shots and he doesn't get his teammates involved enough. Meaning, I know that he can get a triple double, but triple doubles in this current NBA is kind of like empty calories due to the fact that a lot of guys are just getting assists because they're just giving on the basketball to guys and there's nobody playing D. And it's the same thing with the rebounds. Nobody's fighting for the rebounds. But nonetheless, Luca doesn't make the people around him better. And there's talent there. Kristaps Porzingis and Luca cannot play together. I don't care what anybody says. And that's going to be something right there that hinders this team going forward. Is I think if Luca's going to be their guy, which he is, they've got to trade Porzingis. Then you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies, they want to try to find a way to build off of last year's trip to the playoffs. You have John Morant, who is a shooting guard in a point guard's body. He can score. But, Memphis has shooters around him with Dylan Brooks, and we want to see what we can get out of Jaren Jackson Jr. this year if you're Memphis. The addition of Steven Adams, as there was a trade for Jonas Valanciunas as the Grizzlies acquired him from New Orleans, and Memphis wants to try to find a way to be a factor. But I think the thing with Memphis, like a lot of other teams, they're trying to play that outside in game as opposed to playing the inside out game. And I think that's one thing that's going to limit what they can do. Then you look at the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs, they want to try to find a way to get back on track because they've missed the playoffs in each of the last 2 years. The Spurs are in rebuilding mode right now. You have Deontay Murray, you have Derek White, but the thing is, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough for Greg Popovich and his team to make an impact in the West. The Sacramento Kings have the talent to contend for a postseason spot, but I'm not sure if they have the mental meaning that everybody's on the same page to come together. This Kings organization, this Kings franchise has not made the playoffs since 2006, the longest drought in the NBA. And it's hard to believe when you have 15 teams in each conference and 8 of them make the postseason every year. And I talk about this talent with De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, and Marvin Bagley. They can score, but the bottom line is Sacramento was 28th in the NBA in points allowed last season, which is a big reason why they missed the postseason. Uh, Luke Walton, the Kings head coach, I'm not sure if he makes the year because I mean I look at it and the Kings have not had a head coach last more than 3 seasons since Rick Adelman, and it's been a month of Sundays since Rick Adelman coached this team. The New Orleans Pelicans, what direction are they going in? I mean, you get rid of Stan Van Gundy after 1 year, so now you're going to have your third different head coach in 3 years in Willie Green, and he has to try to get some semblance of order to this young team. Zion Williamson has the foot problem, so he's going to miss the beginning of the season. You have Brandon Ingram. I talked about the trade with Jonas Valanciunas coming over from Memphis. So it all comes down to the health of Zion Williamson and the ability for this young team to take the next step. And I think they'll be flashy, but I don't see them being flashy enough to make an impact out west. The Minnesota Timberwolves, will the fertility continue for them? Only one postseason appearance in a very long time. And, again, another head coach with Chris Finch. This is another team. They have the talent to get it done, but everybody's not on the same page. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Carl Anthony Towns has the potential and the ability to dominate, but I think Carl Anthony Towns is a guy who is more content with getting 25 and 15 and getting $25 million and going home. And that's why the Timberwolves don't win. It's a culture issue within this organization. You look around, Cat, you have Beasley, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, and Patrick Beverly. The talent is there. But the bottom line is the Timberwolves can score, but only the Wizards allowed more points than them last season. That ain't going to get it done. And then the two bottom feeders, teams that are going to be out of it very quickly out west. The Houston Rockets, they're in full rebuild mode under new head coach Steven Silas. Eric Gordon, is probably going to be their best scorer this year. They like what they see from Kevin Porter Jr. They also have Jalen Green, but the bottom line is it's not enough. As I think Houston's going to get steamrolled out west, and then the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're in rebuild mode. Shy Gilgis Alexander is their best player, but the bottom line is with all of these picks that the Thunder have, they need to have something made out of it because the Thunder had a opportunity put into their lap more than 10 years ago that most teams never see. You're talking about having Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook all on the same team. All three went on to be MVPs, and none of them are on your roster right now. So that just gives you an idea of where things went. But at the end of the day, as far as the NBA's play-in tournament goes, I think it's going to be Golden State, Dallas, Memphis, and San Antonio out west. But the bottom line is, I think everybody is chasing the Lakers. And the thing is, there's too much of a gap between the Lakers and everybody else out there. The talent is there. I know that this is an older version of LeBron James, but LeBron could get it done. And there's too much talent around LeBron right now. LeBron will never, I won't say easier, but he will never have a better opportunity to win a championship than he has this year. This is due to the fact of the talent around him. And some of these guys who have not won an NBA championship want to be part of an NBA championship. So I think they're going to be zeroed in. It's the Lakers' title to lose. And I think it's just going to come down to their ability to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing about it. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Lakers are going to be up for the challenge. I still think the Nuggets can be a force in the West, as can the Clippers if Kawhi Leonard is healthy. I think that the Suns and the Jazz will take a slight step back this year, but they'll be in postseason contention. But again, you can't consistently play inside out ball and expect to win in the NBA. I think last year's or last season's rather NBA finals showed us that we need to get back to the big man ball as Giannis just bullied everybody and dominated. And I think hopefully that will begin to show itself again and get away from this inside outside ball. But nonetheless, it's the Lakers and everybody else in the Western Conference. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.